At our anniversary dinner, he broke my heart with one sentence. I broke his life with one envelope. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. The champagne flutes catch the candlelight like trapped stars, each bubble rising to the surface in slow motion. I watch them ascend, thinking how fitting it is. Things always rise to the top eventually. The silk dress I chose tonight clings to my body in all the right places. Midnight blue, his favorite color, was his favorite color. The distinction matters now, though he doesn't know it yet. You look beautiful tonight, Michael says, his voice carrying that familiar tone of ownership rather than admiration. 15 years, and I've learned to hear the difference. His fingers drum against the white tablecloth of our dining room table, the one we bought together in our second year of marriage when we still believed in forever. The sound is rhythmic, impatient, like he's counting down to something. Thank you. I lift my glass, letting the champagne touch my lips without drinking. The bubbles tickle, and I think about how something so delicate can still leave marks if you're not careful. Happy anniversary, darling. He mirrors my gesture, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. It never has, not really. I used to think it was just his way, that reserved nature that first attracted me when we met at that corporate function all those years ago. He was the successful attorney, commanding the room with his presence, and I was the naive marketing coordinator who mistook calculation for confidence. The first course arrives oysters, because Michael insists on tradition even when everything else is falling apart. I watch him extract one from its shell with surgical precision, the same way he's been extracting pieces of me for years. The metaphor isn't lost on me. I've had 15 years to perfect my ability to read between the lines of our life together. Do you remember our first anniversary? I ask, selecting an oyster for myself. The brine hits my tongue, salty and immediate, like tears I haven't cried yet. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Of course I do. But I know he doesn't. He never remembers the details that matter to me. How nervous he was that night. How he dropped the ring twice before finally managing to slip it onto my finger during dessert. How he told me I was the most important thing in his world, and I believed him completely. That was before I learned that Michael's world was very small, and I was just one more acquisition in his carefully curated collection. You gave me that necklace, I continue, my fingers moving to touch the sapphire pendant at my throat. Not the one from our first anniversary. That one disappeared during one of his cleaning sprees when he decided my taste was too sentimental. This one he bought for my birthday 3 years ago, expensive enough to make him feel generous, impersonal enough to mean nothing. He's not really listening. His attention is focused on something beyond me, beyond this moment, and I know with the certainty that comes from years of careful observation that he's rehearsing whatever he plans to say tonight. Michael never speaks without preparation, never acts without calculating the outcome first. The irony is exquisite. I excuse myself between courses, ostensibly to check on the main dish, but really to steady myself against the kitchen counter and remember why I'm here. The marble is cool under my palms, grounding me as I count to 10, then 20. Through the doorway, I can see Michael checking his phone, his fingers moving quickly across the screen. Even now, even tonight, he can't commit fully to the performance. In the early years, I would have felt hurt by that casual dismissal. I would have made excuses for him, told myself he was just busy, just focused, just... Michael. I spent so many nights lying awake beside him, wondering what I had done wrong, what I could do better, how I could earn back the attention he gave so freely to everyone else. The answer, I learned, was nothing. There was nothing I could do, because the problem was never me. I learned this lesson in pieces, each revelation arriving like a small death. The first was when I found the text messages to his paralegal, casual conversations that were just intimate enough to make me question my own sanity. When I confronted him, he made me feel foolish for even bringing it up. "She's a colleague, Sarah. Don't be so insecure." Insecure. The word became his weapon of choice, deployed whenever I asked questions he didn't want to answer. I was insecure when I noticed how he lit up around other women at parties. Insecure when I mentioned that he never touched me anymore unless he wanted something. Insecure when I suggested we spend more time together without his phone. The second revelation came 2 years later, when I discovered he had been systematically undermining my career. Small things at first, forgetting to mention important industry events, scheduling date nights during networking functions I had mentioned, expressing doubt about my abilities in front of people who mattered. Then bigger things, discouraging me from taking promotions that would require travel, suggesting I was spreading myself too thin when I started getting recognition for my work. It took me 3 more years to understand that Michael needed me small. He needed me dependent, uncertain, grateful for whatever scraps of attention he threw my way. A successful wife was competition. A confident wife was a threat. By the time I figured out the pattern, I had become exactly what he wanted. A beautiful, successful, enough wife who never outshone him, who always put his needs first, who absorbed his casual cruelties and transformed them into self-doubt instead of rage. But that woman died somewhere along the way, and the person who emerged from her ashes was someone Michael never saw coming. I returned to the dining room with our main course lamb, prepared exactly the way he likes it, because even in my rebellion, I am thorough. He looks up from his phone with that practiced smile, the one he uses when he remembers he's supposed to be performing the role of devoted husband. "Smells wonderful," he says, though he barely glances at the plate I set before him. "You've really outdone yourself tonight." The patronizing tone is so familiar it barely stings anymore. Once his approval was oxygen to me. Now it's just noise. "I wanted tonight to be special," I tell him, taking my seat across from him. The envelope in my purse seems to pulse like a heartbeat, waiting. 15 years deserves to be marked properly. Something flickers across his face. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. Michael has always been good at reading people, at sensing when the pieces on his chessboard aren't moving according to plan. But he's never been good at reading me, because he never bothered to learn. He cuts into his lamb with measured precision, each movement deliberate. "Sarah," he begins, and I know from his tone that we've arrived at the moment he's been building toward all evening. "There's something we need to discuss." My heart hammers against my ribs, but my voice is steady when I respond. "Oh?" This isn't easy for me to say. He sets down his knife and fork, folding his hands in a gesture I've seen him use in court when he's about to deliver a killing blow. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about our marriage, about what I want for my future." I take a small bite of lamb, chewing carefully, giving him the space he needs to hang himself. The meat is perfectly cooked, tender and flavorful, and I think absently that it's a shame he'll barely taste it. "I've tried to make this work," he continues, his voice taking on that reasonable tone that has convinced juries to see things his way for over a decade. "God knows I've tried, but I think we both know that we've grown apart over the years. We want different things. We've become different people." The lies come so easily to him, each word polished smooth by repetition. I wonder how many times he's practiced this speech, how many iterations he's crafted before settling on this particular combination of half-truths and manipulations. He's probably tested different phrasings with Jennifer, his latest paralegal, the one with the bright smile and easy laugh who doesn't yet know that Michael collects beautiful things only until they lose their novelty. "Have we?" I ask quietly, setting down my own utensils. "Have we really grown apart, Michael? Or have you simply stopped pretending to care?" His mask slips for just a moment, irritation flashing across his features before he smooths it away. He doesn't like it when I deviate from the script he's written in his head. "I know this is difficult to hear," he says, leaning forward with practiced sincerity. "But I think it's time we both admitted that this marriage has run its course. We're living like roommates, Sarah. When was the last time we really talked? When was the last time we were truly happy together?" I could tell him exactly when. I could recite the date and time of every moment of genuine connection we've shared, every instance when his guard dropped long enough for me to glimpse the man I thought I married. But those moments belong to a woman who no longer exists, and they're too precious to waste on the man sitting across from me now. You're right, I say instead, and watch surprise bloom across his face. This isn't the response he expected. He was prepared for tears, for pleading, for me to fight for a marriage he abandoned years ago. We're not happy together. We haven't been for a long time. He blinks, momentarily thrown off balance. I'm glad you understand. I was worried you might take this badly. Take it badly. As if his abandonment of our marriage is something I should accept gracefully, the way I've accepted everything else. As if 15 years of my life is an inconvenience he can dismiss with the right combination of words. Oh, I understand perfectly, I tell him, my voice growing steadier with each word. I understand that you've been planning this conversation for months. I understand that you've already moved money around, already consulted with divorce attorneys, already set up your exit strategy. The color drains from his face, but he recovers quickly. Michael has always been good at adapting to unexpected developments. Sarah, I don't know what you think I understand that Jennifer Morrison has been working late with you 3 nights a week since March. I continue, enjoying the way his composure finally begins to crack. I understand that you bought a condo downtown under an LLC that you thought I wouldn't discover. I understand that you've been transferring funds to an offshore account for the past 2 years. He's staring at me now like I'm a stranger, which is ironic considering I've been a stranger to him for most of our marriage. The difference is that I've been paying attention. How did you... He stops himself, but it's too late. The admission is already there, hanging between us like smoke. How did I find out? I lean back in my chair, finally allowing myself to relax into the moment I've been anticipating for months. Michael, darling, you seem to have forgotten what I do for a living. I've spent 15 years watching you underestimate me, watching you assume that my work in corporate investigations is just a cute hobby that keeps me busy while you handle the real business of our lives. The lamb on his plate has gone cold, congealing in its own juices. He hasn't touched it since he started his carefully rehearsed speech. You had me followed? There's genuine shock in his voice now, and something that might be respect if it weren't mixed with such obvious panic. I had myself protected, I correct. There's a difference. I reach for my purse, extracting the envelope that has been waiting patiently through our entire charade of a dinner. It's manila, unremarkable, the kind of envelope that might contain tax documents or insurance forms. Michael's eyes lock onto it like it's a weapon. What is that? This, I say, placing it carefully on the table between us, is the difference between the conversation you thought we were having and the conversation we're actually having. His hand moves toward the envelope involuntarily, then stops. Michael has always been good at calculating risks, and right now, every instinct he has is screaming danger. You see, Michael, while you were busy planning your grand exit, assuming I would just accept whatever crumbs you decided to throw my way in a divorce settlement, I was doing what I do best. I was investigating. I open the envelope and spread the contents across the white tablecloth like I'm dealing cards. Bank statements, photographs, legal documents, phone records, the paper trail of a man who thought he was too smart to get caught. This is the offshore account in the Cayman Islands where you've been hiding marital assets, I say, pointing to the first set of documents. $2.3 million to be exact. Money that you transferred using fraudulent invoices to shell companies that don't actually exist. His face has gone ashen, but I'm not finished. These are photographs of you and Jennifer at the Ritz-Carlton last Tuesday. You told me you were at a client dinner. The timestamps are quite clear. I move to the next stack of papers. This is documentation of the insider trading you've been engaged in, using information from your corporate clients to make investments through your brother's account. The SEC would be very interested in this pattern. Michael's breathing has become shallow, rapid. The confident attorney who walked into this room an hour ago has disappeared, replaced by a man who is beginning to understand the true scope of his miscalculation. And this, I say, picking up the final document, is a divorce agreement that I had prepared 3 months ago, when I finally accepted that our marriage was over. It's very thorough, Michael. Very specific about asset division, spousal support, and the consequences of any attempt to hide marital property. I slide the document across the table to him. I've already signed it. All it needs is your signature. He stares at the papers like they might catch fire. Sarah, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can... No. The word cuts through his desperate bargaining like a blade. We're far past that, don't you think? For the first time in years, Michael looks at me. Really looks at me. I see the moment when he finally recognizes what I've become, what I've been becoming all along while he was too arrogant to notice. You planned this, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. You planned all of this. I planned to protect myself, I reply, just like you planned to destroy me. The difference is that I'm better at it. The silence stretches between us, filled with the weight of 15 years of accumulated grievances and the ashes of whatever love we might have once shared. The candles have burned lower, casting deeper shadows across the ruins of our anniversary dinner. Michael picks up the divorce agreement with trembling fingers, scanning the terms that will define the end of our life together. I know what he's seeing. A settlement that leaves him with barely enough to start over. Spousal support payments that will ensure I'm compensated for the career opportunities he cost me, and ironclad clauses that will destroy him financially if he tries to hide any more assets. This is vindictive, Sarah. This isn't fair. I laugh, and the sound surprises both of us. It's the first genuine emotion I've shown all evening, and it feels like breaking through the surface of deep water. Fair? I repeat. Michael, you spent 15 years systematically undermining my confidence, isolating me from opportunities, making me believe that I was lucky to have whatever attention you decided to spare me. You made me feel grateful for scraps while you planned your exit strategy behind my back. And you want to talk to me about fair? He sets the papers down, his hands shaking. I never meant... Yes, you did. I stand up, suddenly unable to remain seated for this conversation. You meant all of it. Every dismissive comment, every casual cruelty, every time you made me feel small enough to fit into the space you carved out for me in your life. You meant to break me down so completely that I would accept whatever you decided to leave me with. I moved to the window, looking out at the garden we planted together in our 3rd year of marriage. The roses are blooming, beautiful and thorned, surviving another season despite the poor soil. The problem with your plan, Michael, is that you never bothered to learn who I really am. You fell in love with a projection, a fantasy of the perfect wife who would enhance your image and never challenge your authority. And when the real me started to emerge, you tried to crush her back into the shape you preferred. I turned back to face him, this man I once loved with every fiber of my being, this stranger who has been sharing my bed and my life and my dreams while systematically working to diminish all three. But she wouldn't stay crushed. Every time you made me feel worthless, she got stronger. Every time you dismissed my intelligence, she got smarter. Every time you betrayed my trust, she got more careful. Michael is slumped in his chair, the fight gone out of him. He looks older somehow, diminished by the loss of his carefully constructed illusions about himself and our marriage. What do you want from me, Sarah? I want you to sign the papers. I tell him simply. I want you to move out this weekend. I want you to live with the consequences of 15 years of choices that brought us to this moment. And if I refuse? I return to the table and gather up the evidence of his crimes, sliding each stack back into the envelope with methodical precision. Then Jennifer Morrison gets to see the photographs of you with the paralegal from your previous firm, the one you were sleeping with before her. Your partners get copies of the insider trading documentation. The IRS gets the bank records from the Cayman account, and your brother gets to explain to federal investigators why he's been making trades based on information that only you could have provided. The color that had been slowly returning to his face drains away again. You wouldn't. I absolutely would. I meet his eyes, letting him see the steel that has been forged in the fire of our marriage. And Michael? I would enjoy it. He reaches for the pen with the mechanical movements of a man signing his own death warrant. The sound of ink on paper is surprisingly loud in the quiet room, punctuating the end of everything we built together. There, he says, his voice hollow. Are you happy now? Happy? I consider the question seriously. No, I don't think happy is the right word, but I'm free. For the first time in 15 years, I'm free to be exactly who I am, without worrying about whether it threatens your fragile ego or contradicts your fantasy of control. I collect the signed papers, adding them to the envelope that contains the blueprint of his destruction and my liberation. The weight of it feels substantial, important, like holding the deed to my own life. I'll have my lawyer file these tomorrow, I tell him. You have until Sunday to move your personal belongings out. I'll be staying at my sister's for the weekend to give you time to pack. He nods mutely, still staring at the table as if he can't quite comprehend how completely the evening has deviated from his expectations. Michael? I wait until he looks up at me. I want you to know that I really did love you, the man I thought you were anyway. I loved him with everything I had, and I would have spent the rest of my life trying to make him happy. Something flickers across his face. Regret, maybe, or the ghost of the person he might have been if he had chosen differently. But that man doesn't exist, I continue. Maybe he never did, and I can't spend another day of my life mourning someone who was just a projection of my own hopes and needs. I move toward the door, pausing with my hand on the frame to take one last look at the dining room where we celebrated 15 anniversaries, where we made plans for futures that would never arrive, where we performed the elaborate dance of a marriage that was already over long before tonight. Goodbye, Michael. He doesn't respond, and I don't wait for him to. I walk through the house that will be mine alone soon, past the photographs that document a relationship I now understand was largely fictional, through rooms that will need to be reclaimed and redefined without his presence shaping their meaning. In the bedroom, I change out of the midnight blue dress and into comfortable clothes. The sapphire necklace goes back into its box, another relic of a woman who no longer exists. I pack a small bag for the weekend, moving through the familiar motions while my mind processes the seismic shift that has just occurred in my life. When I come back downstairs, Michael is gone. The dining room table is empty except for 2 cold plates of uneaten food and the burned-down candles that provided witness to the end of everything we pretended to be. I blow out the candles and clear the table, washing the dishes with methodical precision. The normal domestic tasks feel different now, tinged with the bitter satisfaction of completion. This is the last time I will clean up after one of Michael's carefully orchestrated performances. As I drive to my sister's house, the envelope secure in my purse, I think about the woman I was when I woke up this morning. She believed she was preparing for an anniversary dinner with her husband. She spent hours getting ready, choosing the perfect dress, cooking his favorite meal, hoping against hope that maybe tonight would be different, that maybe he would remember why he married her in the first place. That woman is gone now, and I find that I don't mourn her passing. She served her purpose, absorbing years of casual cruelty and systematic diminishment, so that the woman I am now could emerge fully formed, armed with evidence and conviction, and the unshakable knowledge of her own worth. The city lights blur past my windows as I drive through the night toward whatever comes next. Behind me, the house I shared with Michael sits empty and dark, waiting to be transformed into something new. Ahead of me lies a future I get to write for myself, without having to consider how each chapter might threaten or diminish the fragile masculinity of a man who never bothered to learn my name. My phone rings as I pull into my sister's driveway. The caller ID shows Michael's number, and I let it go to voicemail. Whatever he has to say now, apologies, threats, desperate bargaining, it's too late. The conversation we needed to have 15 years ago is over, and the woman who might have been willing to forgive him one more time no longer exists. I delete the message without listening to it. Inside my sister's house, she's waiting with wine and tissues, and the kind of fierce support that only comes from someone who has watched you disappear into a marriage and emerge as a ghost of yourself. But when she sees my face, she sets down the tissues and pours the wine instead. So? She asks. It's done, I tell her, and the words taste like freedom. We don't talk about Michael or the marriage or the wreckage I've left behind. Instead, we talk about the future, the business I might start, the places I might travel, the woman I might become now that I'm no longer trying to fit myself into a space designed to keep me small. Later, lying in my sister's guest bed, I think about the anniversary dinner that was supposed to celebrate 15 years of marriage. but instead became a funeral for a relationship that died long ago. I think about the man I loved and the man who actually existed, and how it took me far too long to understand that they were never the same person. But mostly, I think about tomorrow, and the day after that, and all the days stretching ahead of me like blank pages waiting to be filled. For the first time in 15 years, I get to decide what story to write on them. And this time, I'll be the only author. The thought carries me into sleep, deep and dreamless and free,